plume, they would be held responsible, help with really cleaning it up, which I personally think is the ultimate solution. So we prepared the report to council today. I think y'all got to see the collaboration of council. I think they certainly are expressing to me they like the transparency of it, the involvement that I have allowed, which I think should be the model going forward. You know, the 10 people that were agreeing to relocate, that was last August. Some can't be found. 3 are renters. 2 have immigration issues. So I just think it's wrong to rush on something that is this important. We've done our due diligence. I'm very comfortable with the report we issued today, and it was thorough and transparent, and we're going to keep working. We're going to work with the EPA, the county attorney, Union Pacific, the community, the advisory group, and you know, I'm not trying to hold anybody responsible for where it was when I accepted it, except I do think you can't fool people and tell them that you're going to relocate them when you're only contributing 5, actually just 3 million toward the relocation when it takes 40. And of course I read the headlines like you. Residents in Cancer Cluster are going to be relocated. That was not really totally accurate. So I'm pleased with the work we did, and we'll stay on top of it. Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of immigration, as you know, SB 4 went into effect. The second part goes into effect on March. Obviously, this is causing a lot of fear among Hispanics, especially those that might not have paperwork here.
Well, it's unconstitutional. I think nearly anyone that's certainly attended law school, but I don't even think you have to be an attorney to know it's unconstitutional. The border belongs to the U.S. government, and I think you'll see the courts rule that before the March implementation. It was wrong. It couldn't be carried out if the state wanted to. There's just no plans for it. There's no place to place individuals. There's no way to distinguish who's documented, who's undocumented. So it's largely just, unfortunately, extreme politics. And I've spoken against it as a senator. It's wrong. We ought to leave immigration to the federal government.
But have you spoken in terms of, you know, what's HPD going to do?
HPD is not enforcing immigration laws, period.
What's your message to the people that probably...
People is, I'm sorry that they have to endure such divisive measures. And I would tell them that, one, it's not going to happen. I don't believe it'll happen around the state, and it won't happen in Houston. We have immigration laws. It's a federal issue, and I'm sorry that they feel anxiety. I feel it with them. But it'll be struck down by the courts. It's in the courts already. The lawsuits have been filed, and you saw the Supreme Court rule just recently that the governor's barrier is unconstitutional. The border and our boundaries belong to the U.S. government.
Mayor, there's a lot of talk right now about the Houston Avenue project. And
The who?
The Houston Avenue project.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I know that, like, as mayor, especially in a really large city like Houston, you're inheriting a lot, and there are a lot of projects that you're learning about. But I was curious if there are any projects across the city that you have either.
You know, I live in Houston. I live in Houston. I drive across Houston. I observe things that work better than others. The discussion this week focused on Houston Avenue after it was brought to my attention, really the first day I was in office, by HPD, telling me it was unsafe. They work in that area a lot, so I paid attention to it. Other first responders, EMS, fire, cannot, Station 6 on on Washington cannot turn right to get up on 45 South. You heard Pastor yesterday said that they had an emergency at the church. They couldn't get an ambulance in there. So, you know, I don't know why people don't listen to the facts. That's what I listen to, and then I do what I think is best. The businesses, churches along there cannot function. The Lutheran Church has been there 100 years. They could not use their property. Probably have taken a property if you just really want to be a simple explanation. I support pedestrian crosswalks. I got in the mayor's race partly out of frustration over Blossom and Westcott, which has become the main entrance. You ought to go check it out. It's the main entrance into Memorial Park from Rice Military and from Allen Parkway. You can't cross it without endangering your life. It was an issue to me as a resident 3 years ago. Finally, we got a small piecemeal walk there that is still dangerous. I still travel it daily. I support pedestrian crosswalks. This originally, the Houston Avenue Washington corridor, was going to be a pedestrian crosswalk. I believe the road diet people got control of it. They reduced it from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. They had to eat up the space with some left turn, big chunks of concrete. Listen, I want quality of life. I want safety for Houstonians. This is a danger. And talking to engineers, they said the city didn't even listen to them. The person in charge of the original project. So it got out of hand. It's a danger to the public. I ran on public safety, including pedestrians walking across the street. So you'll see ultimately a really well-designed, thought-out pedestrian crosswalk. What we ought to be thinking about also is the municipal courts. You know, you ought to go and look at the court rooms that are still boarded up, meaning from Harvey, which means they have to hold court till 10 o'clock at night, which means that citizens have to cross Houston Avenue at night. Why don't we talk about what's causing part of the danger to the pedestrians? It's a dysfunctioning location of municipal courts. HPOU and their cadet members have to cross Houston Avenue on a regular basis. There's other sites across town, but I'm not focused on them. This one was brought to me. My responsibility is to respond. And it's been politicized by special interest groups, some of my political enemies, but you know, that goes with the territory. It's not going to deter me from doing the right thing. It's a danger. The first day it was completed, Metro stuck a bus on High Center. I don't know if any of y'all grew up in the country, but I did. High Center means the ground is lit. You get High Center. You're on top of the ground, the esplanade. What did they have to do? The riders of the bus had to sit there, miss school, miss work, while they brought in a wrecker and lifted them off. Nobody wanted to acknowledge that yesterday. Fire trucks can't get on 45 South. The church can't function. The officer supply office there on Washington cannot function. So I'm very comfortable with my decision to do the responsible thing. It's been politicized by groups that kind of captured it from the outset.
Yesterday, 4 of the contractors involved in that emergency contracting process over the summer, they were called in to fix the water leaks. They claim they haven't been paid in full. They're tangled up in that Houston Public Works investigation. Sent us an anonymous letter saying that if the city doesn't pay them by the 16th, they're going to begin repossession, meaning they're threatening to dig stuff up out of the ground. Sure. What is your response to them?
My response to them is I'm sorry they're caught up in this. It was a scandal that drug them into it. If they're responsible contractors and have completed the work, they should be paid promptly. The Inspector General is reviewing it. City Legal is reviewing it, and I think the work being done to discover did they complete their job is what needs to go forward.
And just circling back to the cancer cluster, the fact that
Sure.
all this development was happening, that council says they were not aware, in fact they were being told that it wasn't happening. I know you said you don't want to play the blame game, but what's being done to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
What doesn't happen again?
That we're not putting GLO homes or new roads in.
Well, it's actually happening. I've asked the GLO, and it shows again my ability to work with Austin and work across the aisle. GLO has already completed 3 homes. They have 18 planned, and we've asked them to pause, and they have paused. So, you know, there again, it just wasn't very well thought out or presented when it was on that first council agenda that I inherited.
Yeah, just, I mean, this obviously isn't the only industrial contamination site in the city. Is there anything that needs to change to prevent this moving forward? Or was it just a total communications fumble?
Well, you know, the creosote plant's been there about 100 years, so I've been mayor a month. There are other environmental concerns, the San Jacinto River, which is outside of Houston, but it's a super site that the EPA is actually assumed responsibility and going, well, that's a lie too. They're working with Champion Paper, but they have been very active on the scene.
Mayor, I know last week we were talking about the new water bill plan that you were formally installed. You said you were ironing out some details. Any timeline this week on when that may be?
No, the timeline is whatever it takes to do it right. You know, there again, you can't have a press conference and roll out something like it was done in December and say we've corrected the water billing, and it hasn't been corrected. There's still outrageous water bills. We've instructed Public Works and the Water Department to let residents that get these exorbitant bills to not panic. They're not going to have to pay it. We're in the process of coming up with a process where we'll let you know. We'll be proactive and let you know that bill is not the real deal. We'll have face-to-face in-service employees to help you remedy it. We're in the process of dealing with water meters and the computer and the sensors. So when I roll it out in the very near future, it ought to, once and for all, give people relief for their exorbitant, unrealistic water bills. And we'll go back and average the 3 months last year to come up with what is a fair amount, which they should have received instead of the crazy exorbitant ones. So,
We've talked about the plan for DPS of 400 officers that you were planning to bring in to get more security here for the city. How is that plan going? And with
Well,
the SB 4 thing, are you afraid that people are going to be afraid that this agency belongs
well,
to the state?
if people want to politicize it, you can scare people about a lot of things. There's nothing magic about the DPS coming here. They worked Sunday before last, hand in hand with HPD, with no incident dealing with immigration. It was traffic enforcement. It's public safety. And Chief Fenner worked hand in hand with 8 agencies. DPS was part of the operation. They arrested 2 violent offenders with warrants. They issued a couple hundred tickets. Getting back to Houston Avenue, the real solution to pedestrian safety is traffic enforcement. So we've got to have traffic enforcement on our freeways and roads. Chief Fenner is in charge of recruiting and using other agencies, including the DPS, so no one has anything to fear. This is not the border. The DPS working here will be under the direction of Chief Fenner, who I have confidence in. So it's a great model and it's going to work well. Is it perfect? No, but it's going to provide the public safety. It's going to deal with road rage. It's going to deal with speeding, running red lights, and stop signs. We need better traffic enforcement throughout Houston.
Mayor, have you already talked about publicly the future plans of the Southeast Water Plant now that the city's decided to maintain operation of it?
We discussed that this morning. We're going to do a walkthrough and look at the condition of the Southeast Water Plant. We do not want any surprises, like you read, like I did. The dismissal or no longer discussing privatization was not on my clock and during my administration. That's something that we inherited, but we're going to do everything we can to guarantee that there is a safe, reliable water supply for all Houstonians and wastewater as well. You know, we've got some real challenges with our infrastructure, not only streets, but also water and drainage. But I'm excited about working with my colleagues in the Horseshoe. It seems to be, they're energized, they're appreciating my transparency and inclusion. I brought that to City Hall from many years in the legislature. I just know if we all work together, our constituents will benefit. In this instance, we all represent the same people. So I listen to district and at-large council members. They're so important, and I want to assist them in representing their district. Doesn't mean I don't have my own ideas about some of the projects, but anyway, I'm pretty pleased that, what is it, a month and a week? It's a big job, but experience counts. And I brought a lot of it to the table.
Mayor, if I could follow up on a question she had earlier. I know you can't keep up with every single traffic project going on around town, but it appears TxDOT is planning to close the exit to McGregor and then take that street down to one lane. And Super Neighborhood Leader Tamara Bell is asking TxDOT to delay this project until after rodeo and spring break to alleviate traffic concerns. I don't know, are you aware of this?
You know, I try to keep up with Tomorrow Bell, but it's kind of a challenge. I will check on that project. TxDOT has their timetable as well, but they know how strongly I feel about using some common sense when they're going about closing thoroughfares. I don't know if you restrain them during the rodeo. I don't know what would be the next event, but I'll check with them. I have a good working relationship with TxDOT. Don't always agree with them either, by the way. That got it? Thank y'all for staying around.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Appreciate your
y'all.
availability.
You know, we have a great city, by the way, and great
Kinda
people,
partial to it. I'm from here.
and great people. We just have some deferred maintenance and projects that need to be attended to. Thank y'all.
Tell you, dude, I was like, you know what, take this guy to jail. Just take him to jail. Just do it. He's embarrassing himself and also embarrassing me.
I know you're busy.